right, it's 7 o'clock, and as people are rolling in, that's fine. But let's get started. I want to begin by saying thank you all for being here on this Tuesday, cold and windy night. My name is Cheyenne Hardy, and I'm the graduate assistant for family programs and will be the moderator for tonight's event. Tonight, I am joined by our faculty members from Career Services, the Global Education Office, and Study Abroad, and the Office of Student Scholarship, Creative Activities and Research, or OSCR for short. I am also joined by our lovely parent and family council members as well, so thank you all again for being here. Tonight's topic is career success, study abroad, research, and internships, which the panelists will answer questions that I have, and then we will hold the last 10 minutes for questions that you all may have. Tonight, while panelists are speaking, feel free to use the Q&A button next to the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. The chat button will be used to place my questions for the panelists and any links they will provide for you all. We also have live transcripts, closed captioning enabled for you all who may need it. And just like the previous session, this session will be recorded and posted to our website and YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's get started. My first question I have for is Saskia. Can you introduce yourself and what you do here at Mason?
Hello, yes, my name is Saskia Campbell and I serve as Executive Director of University Career Services. And so my office is really designed to help students to get career ready by the time they graduate. So we love to see students early and often throughout their career at Mason, helping them to clarify their career goals, to gain experience that's relevant to what they want to pursue after graduation, whether that is study abroad or research or an internship. We help students with things like resume writing, internship, job search, interviewing, those kinds of things, again, to help them land successfully after graduation.
Awesome. Thank you, Saskia, for that introduction. So my first question is, the spring semester is ending in a few weeks and students will soon enter the summer months. When do you suggest students start searching for internships, and what resources are available to students preparing for internships?
Yeah, so this is definitely prime season for a summer internship. It really does vary based on the industry that a student wants to go into. So we have what we call an industry model in career services. So we meet with students not based on whether they're an undergrad or a graduate student, the first letter of their last name or their major, but rather we meet with them based on what they want to do after they graduate or they think they might want to do. Because the recruiting timelines, how you applied, what your application materials look like, the interview process for internships and jobs, it all varies based on the industry. Some career fields, some types of employers recruit very, very early for interns, and others kind of do on-demand, just-in-time hiring. So just as an example, we see some big name accounting firms, consultancies, federal government agencies recruiting in the fall for their summer internships. Other employers, in the tech space, nonprofits, different sectors, the arts, they're hiring more closer to the end of the school year for their summer interns. So there are definitely still internships available for this summer if your student is looking for them, but I would say now is definitely the time if they haven't already secured something. And if it's too late for summer, then they can already start planning towards the fall as well. So the students here at Mason have the benefit of doing year-round internships, given our access and proximity to DC and how many employers we have in this area.
Do you have any resources that are available for students preparing for internships? Like, I know we have the career fair or handshake or anything like that.
Absolutely. So yes, Career Services maintains Handshake, which is our database of jobs and internships for Mason students, as well as graduates. They continue to maintain access after they earn their degree from us. In that system, there are thousands of internships specifically that employers have posted for Mason students. So they can log into Handshake. All that is required is that they use their Mason net ID and password. They all already have access. They just need to log in. And they'll be able to search based on their major or their interest keywords. They'll be able to search by location. They'll be able to search for remote internships if they're looking for virtual options. That's a keyword that they can put in. So lots and lots of internships available. Either they're going to apply through the system or they'll be directed with specific instructions for that employer as to how to apply for their internships. If students are having any difficulty navigating Handshake, aren't finding enough opportunities, they can definitely come in, schedule an appointment with University Career Services for one-on-one internship search guidance and support. Several of our career fairs are over for the year, but we do have one left. It's called the Just-in-Time Hiring Fair, and that will be in May. So the event calendar is on our website and students can always see what events are coming up, but the Just-in-Time Hiring Fair will be our last career fair of this academic year. Academic departments are also a really great resource. So students should be talking to their faculty members. They should be sharing with them their career interests, asking if they have any contacts, asking if there are any alums that they're still in touch with that are offering internships. So definitely faculty connections and listservs through the academic departments are also a great source of internships that students can find.
Thank you for that. My next question goes to Kim. Do you mind introducing yourself and also what you do here at Mason?
Of course, thank you very much. So my name is Kim Loch, a bit hard to pronounce. I'm originally from Germany, so I did study abroad the other way around. I actually work for Study Abroad, also known as the Global Education Office in outreach and marketing mostly, but also teach a course for the freshman gateway program, where we send freshman students to about 8 to 10 different locations worldwide. And I can talk about that a little bit later on. Most of what I do is just talking to students and making sure they know what resources are available and how they can get started to going abroad.
Thank you. My first question for you is, what study abroad opportunities are available to students and where can they learn more about these offerings?
Well, of course, they can always come into our office, which is on the campus right in the middle next to the admissions office in the Johnson Center on the second floor. But of course, it would be online. Everything is available there. Now, if you forget where the address is, you can just enter the two words Mason and abroad into Google search bar. And the first 1, 2, or 3 search results will lead you to the website. Just to give you a few numbers, we have about 220 programs available right now. Those can be short-term programs where students spend 2 weeks during January going abroad, and programs where they can get 3 credits. There's also spring break options available if they want to do shorter programs, but from there on it gets really longer step by step. We talked about internships earlier, so we also have global internships available where students can go abroad for 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 weeks abroad over the months of May, June, July, and even August. And then we have these traditional study abroad ones. You know, we have exchange programs where we exchange students with other schools, and you would spend a semester or maybe even a year abroad. And we also see students doing this several times. Some students do like a winter, summer, and a semester program. The most I've ever seen so far is 5 programs, and then that student actually graduated a semester early and is now working for the federal government. You can always find more on our website. We also have scholarships available. About $500,000 are available in scholarships, so it doesn't mean you can always get that. But some scholarships are not competitive at all, so just apply. If you want to do a program, apply to the program, apply to the scholarship, and those are usually between $500 to $1,500, and it's quite nice to have those. Another way to find out about programs, you know, you can always search by interest. Foreign language skills are not really required. Those who come to Mason, they're more interested in the subject matter. So they want to study for their career in their degree. We offer that with internships, of course, global internship, but also the semester programs available, specialized programs like conservation studies in Kenya, or tours in Europe, of course. So you can do area-based study, all these different kinds of things, and search for that. If you go to the website, and there's a link down there that there's programs, you can actually see there's several browsing options available. You can actually search by area of study, by term, by country, anything you want. And there's also 2 yellow buttons on there, Mason Gold, just want to mention those. One lists not your academic field, but your career field. So you can actually see if you want to do global internship, what is available, what does it look like, what can I do? And the other one is a big database that lists classes you can take at our partner schools that are not at Mason. But if you want to see, for example, at Curtin University in Perth, Australia, which is the furthest you can get away from the BC area, it's a 28-hour flight. That gives you an idea of what you can do. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that. Knowing that Mason has a lot of opportunities for students outside of just the US. And I know that within the website, there's also a way to have an internship or a study abroad option here in Fairfax. So if students are maybe like a little hesitant about going outside of the country, I know study abroad also offers that option as well. But again,
correct, there would be a virtual internship, and there's also some in-country options available. Like Puerto Rico is part of the US, and you can actually go there on a program in the summer.
Thank you. My next question is for Karen. Do you mind introducing yourself and what you do here at Mason?
Thank you. I couldn't find the unmute button. My name is Karen Lee. I'm the Assistant Director at OSCAR. OSCAR is the Office of Student Scholarship, Creative Activities, and Research. That's why we call it OSCAR. And we are the undergraduate research office on campus. Undergraduate research is one of what they call high impact practices that have some of the same benefits that internships or study abroad or any number of other of these kinds of outside of classroom experiences have. And so our job is to work with any student from any major, any year at any of the Mason campuses who wants to get involved in a research or creative project. It's our job to help them connect with that opportunity. We have programs within our office that fund student research. There's a number of courses on campus where you can take a class and do a small research project in the class. And then if you've done a project and you want to go to a conference or a festival or to share your work some other way outside of Mason, we have a travel fund that students can apply for so they can go to give a talk or read their poetry or play their music or whatever it is.
Thank you. So my question for you, Karen, is how can students find out research opportunities? If a student has a research idea, what steps should they take to get started?
Sure. If a student has an idea, the first thing they really want to do if they want to get involved in an organized research project is to find a mentor. And so anybody who's going to do a research project, even if you're in graduate school, you have somebody to help guide you through the project who's done this before. And so that's sometimes the hardest part for students. If they already know somebody who's doing the kind of research they want to do, they should just go talk to them and say, you know, I think you do really interesting research. I have this idea. Would you, could I work with you? If they have no idea who they could ask, which is sometimes where students are at, they can contact us, contact Oscar. It's oscar@gmu.edu, make an appointment to speak to me or to one of our Oscar peer leaders who are undergraduates who have done work with Oscar. And we're happy to sit with them and talk through who might be doing the kind of work they want to do, maybe which research centers they should contact, and then talk to them about how do you just contact a professor you've never met and say, hi, I want to work with you. It really is what you do, but we're happy to help them find that mentor. And that's really the first thing. If they know what they want to research, we can help them find a mentor and then go from there. But I will say one last thing. It's not part of your question, but if they don't know what they want to do, we're happy to help them figure that out too.
That's nice, especially if you have an idea but don't know how to get started, or if you find a mentor and again, you don't know how to like connect to the mentor on the research level. So it is nice to have a office that's there for you to push you into creating your research. So thank you for that, Karen.
Sure.
Circling back to Saskia, I have another question for you. Some students may not feel prepared for professional interviews. I know I didn't when I interviewed for many different jobs, especially getting out of college. But again, now I'm here. How should students prepare for internships, for interviews, sorry, and where can they find resources to help them prepare?
Sure. So interviewing is a skill you can develop with practice, right? So that's not an uncommon feeling you had. And so in terms of how to prepare for an interview, we offer interview preparation resources. So we have information on our website. We have frequently asked questions. We have also practice interviews that students can do with a member of the University Career Services team. So that's an appointment that they can schedule, a practice interview, and we offer them in whatever format the student wants practice in. So if they're going to have an upcoming phone interview, we'll do a practice interview via phone. If they're going to have an upcoming video interview, we'll do the practice interview on video, on Zoom or something. And if they have an in-person interview, then we can do it in person so that we can give them feedback on their technology and their setup, how they're coming across, their voice projection, their staging, whatever it is that they need feedback on, in addition to the content, the quality of the substance of their responses, we can give them feedback. We also have a practice interview tool called Interview Stream, where students can record themselves responding to interview questions. They will then send the link to a member of the team for feedback. So we'll, because a lot of times now employers are using video interviews that's become more and more popular since the pandemic, and some of them are live, but other times they're having students record their responses to interview questions. And so that's another format that we can help give students feedback on using the tool Interview Stream. What's nice about that is that students can watch themselves after they've recorded their responses to interview questions, and they might even just self-correct, like, oh, I noticed that I'm using these filler words, or that I'm gazing off into the distance there, or I'm really struggling with answering that type of question. Let me think through answers to those questions in advance. So students can already start to do some practice and self-reflection to improve their interviewing skills using that tool, and that's available 24/7. So lots of different ways for students to get interview prep. Sometimes we have employers on campus, employers or alumni, who will do practice interviews with students and give them feedback as well. So lots of resources all throughout the year for interview prep.
Going along with that, I know for myself, sometimes it's hard for me to gear up for an interview, aside from like the questions that will be asked, but specifically about professional wear. Where can students, or do you have any resources for students to find some professional wear for an interview?
So in terms, this is a really interesting question, because we are seeing lots of changes in the world of work, and interview attire and professional wear is one of those. I'm not saying the same things that I used to 5, 10, 15 years ago when it comes to what is professional dress these days. I think there's been a relaxing of dress codes. It really varies a lot by industry and individual employer. So we're not making sweeping generalizations anymore as to what appropriate attire is. We are coaching students on how to investigate and ask that question so that I can best prepare for my interview day based on the schedule and the agenda that you have set for me and your organizational culture. What would be the most appropriate dress is now a question we're having students ask as they are confirming the details of an interview, just because I can't say now for sure that wearing a full suit is really necessary. And so that's one of those things that we are seeing change. Now, the common thought, though, is you want to impress, right? So dress to impress. And we do have a Pinterest board where we outline what formal business attire is, what traditional interview attire is, as well as what business casual is. And so we have images of that is that provides all gender options and is inclusive of different religious and cultural practices as well. So that's a resource that we share with students. In terms of the financial piece of it, every year we have partnered with JCPenney to provide a discount to students who wanted to purchase professional attire in advance of our career fair. But beyond that, we do recommend them you can borrow something, you can go to the thrift store, it doesn't have to be new, as long as you are feeling confident more than anything, because what you wear can, influence your mood and your attitude, and you want to go in there feeling confident.
Thank you so much. Kim, back to you. What advice would you have for students who are interested in studying abroad, but may have financial safety and access concerns?
Those are questions we get quite often. Of course, finances. One thing I would like to say is you never ever pay tuition twice. I've seen that some think that they have to go to Mason, pay tuition to Mason, and then pay additional money in tuition for study abroad. I do have to say sometimes there is an additional piece, but I would always compare and contrast all the different programs we have. And we do have people who can help you with that. There's full-time staff available, but also peer advisors who did those programs in the past, and they can actually guide students through that. One thing I'd like to say is take, for example, semester programs. There's quite a few options available, and they have all these jargons attached to it, like Mason-led, direct enrollment, exchange. So you may not know what that is, but actually it tells you how a program is financed. So if you're an in-state student from Virginia, you can mostly look at exchanges. You pay Mason tuition in-state level, and then you can go abroad and study at a partner university for a semester at the Mason tuition level. Now, if you find a place where cost of living is even lower than here on the East Coast, you will actually save a little bit of money. Korea is a good example. One reason we have a campus there is the cost of living is really low. You can get housing there for $1,500 to $1,800 for a semester, whereas the average housing at Mason is $4,700 or more. So that is quite a good option. Another one is, let's say you want to go to Spain. We have a school there in Madrid, and you will see two entries on the website. One says exchange, the other one says direct enrollment. Exchange is, what I did when I was younger, is like we switch students and you pay the tuition rate in your country. Now, if you're an out-of-state student, that would mean paying like $18,000 in tuition alone, and that is not a money saver. So direct enrollment are options where we pay directly, but we don't exchange students. And with some institutions, we have both options available. And when you look at the tuition you pay for this school in Madrid, which is Carlos Terrero, you actually pay at the in-state tuition level. So you're saving like $12,000, which even if you have flights and everything else, it's a huge money saver. Now, for in-state or out-of-state, wherever you are, Mason-led programs are always the same program, so really it doesn't matter for that. And we try to be competitive, not just for students who decide to stay here, but also if you want to go to a third-party provider. So that's one thing. Also have scholarships that we disperse, apply for that. And if you use financial aid, you can use it. I always recommend talking to the academic advisor for academics and your financial aid counselor, if you have one, about finances to make sure you're really on track about that. Planning is everything. And your second part of the question is about safety. So one thing is also with COVID, we've seen we're very busy evacuating students and bringing them back. We do have a person on staff whose sole role is health and safety, making sure they're briefed before they go, they have a contact while they're abroad. There's a 24/7 emergency line, and we'll just contact with our partner schools, of course, and our faculty on the ground to make sure there is communication ongoing. On a side note, the university does have a travel advisory committee. We have acronyms, of course, that are called UTAC. They make decisions, especially in times of COVID, if you can actually send students. So there's a mechanism in place to really make sure, can we send students abroad? And then when they're abroad, what happens there. We have health insurance and everything like that. As to access, we also are trying to really get bigger on our diversity and inclusion initiative to make sure that non-traditional students, and we're here at Mason, we have students who are non-traditional, have access to study abroad, and there's different resources, of course, available. The last few years, we've also seen nationwide a new conference starting to emerge. From that is now a huge organization, which is Diversity Abroad. They not only have resources, but also have more than that. So we're really provide these resources and talk students through all of them so that finances are clear, there's scholarships, that the access piece and everything is covered. And as I said, we do have a mandatory pre-departure health and safety briefing before they all go abroad. Okay.
Thank you. I think, at least for me personally, my parents would be very happy to know that there are measures put in place for if I were to go abroad, so that they would worry less. So thank you for letting us know what are those safety measures, what are those accessible concerns and also financial concerns for students. Back to you, Dr. Lee. Research is typically thought of as being conducted in a science lab, but what if a student wants to conduct research on a non-science topic that interests them?
There's absolutely no problem with that. Our programs, all of the programs at Oscar, are for any major, any discipline. We have in any given semester, students making films, students writing novels or writing poetry. We have a student this semester who happens to be a biologist, but she's actually painting murals to teach people about insects. So it's science, but she's not doing a science experiment. We have students who have done interviews. We, several years ago, had a choreographer who choreographed a dance with funding from Oscar. So anything is possible, anything they want to do, and it doesn't even have to be in their major. So my first summer here, we had a physics major who was a musician, and he wrote a musical with funding from Oscar. That had nothing to do with physics. I mean, it was not physics, the musical. We've had several students who have done things outside of their majors because they were doing something to make a living, but they had a passion in something else. And we're fine as long as they can show that they have the expertise to work on their passion as a project. We're fine with that. So yeah, we actually are looking for creative projects, for example.
Nice. So it doesn't have to be a student is specifically interested in science, like the big
Absolutely not.
picture of science. So students can be interested in anything, and
Anything.
Oscar is their go-to resource.
Yes, and there are other places on campus that you can do research. There's other funding on campus. There's actually summer programs off campus where students can go and do research. And what Oscar tries to do, and it's a little hard at a school the size of Mason, is be the place where students can come and say, I want to do this thing in research. Where can I do it? And if we don't know, then we can find out so that we can point them either to our programs, other programs on campus, or even off campus.
Thank you.
Sure.
Definitely a big help for any student out there trying to get their foot in the door with research. Thank you. So Saskia, my last question for you is, what advice do you have for parents, families, and supporters who are supporting their student in their internship and job searches?
Yes, I think how you can help, well, the number one way that people still get internships, jobs, and other kinds of opportunities is by word of mouth. So if you happen to have family members, neighbors, friends of yours who are doing work that would be of interest to your student, if you could facilitate an introduction, have them spend a day at work with them, that is really, really helpful. So you know, it is great if you could facilitate the introduction and then your student do the talking and take it from there so that they can practice those networking skills, building relationships, asking for career advice, and those kinds of things. Other ways that you can help is by, really encouraging them explaining the importance of and the value of internships. So that's probably my biggest challenge as a Career Center director, is having students actually do things that we know are really good for them. Maybe as a parent, you feel the same way. But some of the selling points, right? Employers are expecting college grads to come to them with 6 to 12 months of relevant experience. There are lots of different ways to gain experience, as we've been talking about here. The reason I push internships so much is because for a lot of employers, the only time that someone can do an internship is when they're a student. A high school student, a college student, a graduate student, but a lot of internship programs are restricted to currently enrolled students. And once they graduate, they're not going to be eligible anymore. And so that's why the timing is really critical, that they know that and are pursuing internships, ideally sophomore year, that summer between junior and senior year, I would say at the latest, because internships also have the potential to convert to full-time job offers, right? And so that summer before senior year is a really critical time to do an internship if you want it to convert into something. Also, internships have the potential to increase a student's starting salary because, again, employers are counting that as relevant experience in the field. So for all these reasons, you know, internships are really, really important. Although study abroad is pretty life-changing. I know, I know that my life was changed by studying abroad in Ghana. And I had a really cool geology internship as a student as well. And for any of these things, they help a student confirm what they want to do as much as rule out something that they don't want to do. Unfortunately, that geology internship did confirm for me that I didn't want to do geology, but that was an important thing in my career development process, right? So I think the best thing that you can do is encourage your student to pursue internships and other forms of experience while they're a student, to help them see some of the skills that you see in them, some of their strengths, and then really kind of encourage them to do the work. You know what? This is the other thing. If you could share with them your career journey, your story, because a lot of times, you know, students are interacting with people that they feel have arrived. Like you see them fully formed adults and professionals in their roles, but they don't really see the backstory of everything that it took to get there. And so just to normalize for your student, you know, well, I thought I wanted to do this and then I tried that and this didn't work out and I got laid off here, but this opportunity came about, and just kind of how careers actually evolve. They're not linear, right? There's fits and stops and starts, and students really need to hear that. If you're willing to share that with them, that would be fantastic.
Thank you. I know that's how I learned to really get my foot in the door with what I wanted to do, was actually speaking to faculty advisors about their career experience and learning how they got into being a faculty advisor or professor or what the case may be. And for me, again, it was very helpful because you learn that, like you just mentioned, Saskia, that it's not a linear road. There's so many ups and downs, twists and turns, and each road for anyone is going to be different from the next person. So definitely having students reach out to the people around them that they may see as a professor or faculty advisor, mentor, is another way for your student to also possibly find an internship as well, because faculty advisors can link students to other people that they may know within the university and also outside of the university. So thank you. My next question is for Keem. What opportunities and potential challenges exist in study abroad? And what advice would you give for parents, families, and supporters whose students want to study abroad?
I'm going to say I will steal a point from Saskia here, which is timing and planning. It is important to actually look at deadlines because those are some of the challenges we see. A lot of times we can always accept students into programs on a first come, first served basis. but there's others that are more competitive and they may have other deadlines. So usually March and October are the deadlines we have. And what I've seen recently is like we've moved to the 10th of every month. So March 10th, October 10th seem to be the main deadlines. As for alternatives, we mentioned study abroad. If you need to summarize it in one word, it would be transformative as an experience. It can be very small when students go abroad and they come back, but just like a tiny thing of their behavior has changed. And maybe they feel more confident about some things that did not happen before. I saw a huge transformation with a student who seemed to be more reserved and conservative here. And then she went to Korea and she's a whole different person. For better, of course, I think she found how she would identify herself, of course. Big advice I can give, for parents is also like, be supportive of what students want to do. Maybe it's not just you say, I really want to go to Spain, I really want to go to Japan. Maybe you have a major that offers a better opportunity elsewhere and you could focus on that. It's something we do with our peer advisors too, is not just giving advice, but actually do advising, listening to what students need, but also trying to give them the options, not just saying like, this is the program that I liked, you will like it too, because this is not what we do. We want to give you the options so you can choose from those. It's going to be difficult with the finances that we've seen, but we'll try to help with that. So those would be challenges. Another thing I would say is do your research a little bit beforehand. And even if you just want to come into the office, that's fine as well. Don't go abroad during your last semester. If you go to a place, you could technically, but not every place is like the US. Not every semester starts at the same time. And you may find it difficult to actually get the grades back in time for someone to walk and actually graduate on time. So that's one thing we don't recommend. Another thing I would say is also in terms of challenges is we always use the US as a major benchmark to compare cultures and talk about countries. And it can be difficult to really adjust to cultures. The worst case would be that students arrive and cannot deal with a country and just want to go back immediately. So as family members, I encourage, it's like, try to say, you're there now, at least continue with the program. There are rare cases where someone left after 24 hours, of course. But just to give you an example, Europe can appear more liberal, of course, and the fact that, smoking and drinking is much more widespread and very different. Might be more liberating in that way. On the other side, Asia seems to be more progressive, but culturally can be very conservative. So things you would expect by watching shows of Korea and Japan, the society may not be as accepting as you may think. And we also try to teach this in our class as well. I want to digress too much, but just give you an idea, support in your decision, but also really have an open mind as to what is available and where you want to go.
Thank you. I know that even though I have not studied abroad, I know a couple of peers of mine that have, and they absolutely love studying abroad. Some have done it 3 times already, and it is very transformative for them because you're immersed in a different culture that you haven't been before, especially if you have lived in the US all your life and this is your first time ever going outside the country. It can be scary at first because again, you are moving outside of your comfort zone or what you know to be the norm. So then you have to get accustomed, especially it depends on how long the program is, but still you will have to get accustomed to the norms that are within that country, but still it is a great opportunity for students to have and just supporting them throughout that as Akeem mentioned as well. And for my last question for Dr. Lee, the idea of attending classes, being involved in campus life, holding a job, and keeping up with family responsibilities and conducting research may be overwhelming for some students. What advice do you have for parents, families, and supporters who want to help motivate their student and support their student?
I think the best advice I could give is to plan carefully. So we encourage students to do as many of these experiences as they can, even though they have all these other things going on. And what obviously don't want to happen to a student is for them to take lots of credits, have all these other things going on, and then add an internship and a research experience to it all in the same semester. And so the first thing I would do is to tell students and people who are supporting them, sit down, look at the things you want to do and do your best to plan them out so that one, you don't wait till senior year and suddenly be like, oh my gosh, I need an internship and a study abroad experience and undergraduate research in 2 semesters, right? Because then you're gonna overwhelm yourself. If you sit and you're like, there's no way I can keep my job and take care of my family and do all these things and do a standalone research project, look for a course that's a research-based class where you get to do research as part of the course. So then you're taking class, you're getting credit, you're getting a taste of research, but without having to add research to an already full plate. It's not an additional thing that you add. And then the other thing is to try, if you're somebody that has to work during the school year or has to work in the summer, is to try to find a paid research experience. There are research experiences at Mason that pay a stipend in the summer, up to $5,000 for a 10-week summer experience. Full-time, it's full-time, but it might mean that somebody could back off and work only a couple of nights a week or only on the weekends and not have to work full-time. But also there are off-campus research experiences that are paid research experiences that would allow somebody to work that in and not have to work a part-time job and try to do research and try to do an internship and all those things together. So I think that's the best thing, is to look for experiences that will actually put money in your pocket, will pay you. And then secondly, that to plan so that you know when you want to do things, so that you can organize things perhaps so that you won't be overwhelmed. I totally see why it could be overwhelming.
Yes. Do you have a specific resource that you can give to families and supporters where students can find those paid opportunities?
Well, the 2 programs that are offered at Mason, they're both listed in the resource areas. One of them is the Undergraduate Research Scholars Program, and that's on the student page of the OSCR website. And then the other is the Summer Team Impact Projects, and that's on the Mason Impact student page, which I also pasted into the resource guide. And then there's a number of off-campus ones that we could talk, that if somebody has a specific one they were interested in, we could point them toward.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I have for all the panelists. If any of the parent and family council members want to chime in on whether research opportunities that their student has taken part of, or study abroad opportunities, or internship, career advice that they've been given to their students, go ahead and chime in. And also this will be the time for Q&A for our panelists as well.
I've been monitoring the chat and answering a lot of questions there in the Q&A section. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Hopefully I could type fast enough. It did seem like there was a question, several questions about intelligence careers. So for national security, federal law enforcement, those kinds of things. So I did want to just put out there our Clearance Ready program. So students who want to work for the FBI, CIA, those types of agencies, one, they need to start looking early. So September, October are deadlines for the following year. Also, other things, students can't apply for a clearance. They have to first get an internship or a job that requires a clearance, and then the agency puts in for it. So they have to secure the position first, then they would go through the background investigation and security clearance process. And we have a Clearance Ready program to educate students about this process. So I'll put that into the chat as well. I just noticed that to be a trend that was coming up on a lot of questions.
So I saw some questions about Spain, if I may just say a few things about that. And also someone asked about criminology. Yes, so we have several Spain programs available. It always helpful to know exactly what program it is. On the page is usually program contact listed that you can reach out to like find out more about logistics like travel arrangements. The other thing is if you're looking for a particular major, on the first page I mentioned we have all the different search options. If you click on area of study, you can enter any field that you're interested in. And then we have parameters that we attach and tag programs with. So if, for example, you're looking for criminology, it will then list those programs. A very popular option for criminology, by the way, is a program called Hooligans and Homicide in the UK and Ireland. An interesting title, but they actually work with law enforcement in those countries and they travel a lot. It was put on ice for this year, but it will go again in the summer of 23.
There's a question in the Q&A that I would like to ask, and I can see that you're typing, Saskia, so I'm gonna just ask aloud. Question was, the struggle to find internships is real. And sadly, my student is getting very little support from his major/advisor. Should he make an appointment with career services to maybe get some support or advice?
Absolutely. So students can schedule an appointment through Handshake, or they can call our office to make an appointment. So when students aren't able to find an internship, it's usually for one of just a handful of reasons. One, they don't know what keywords to use. They don't know how to search on the various different sites. If they're just putting in the name of their major, they may not get a lot of results that way. So we got to help them to identify what are the keywords, what are the search terms, how do I search engine optimize? Those are the kinds of things we can talk with them about. Also, another reason they may not be getting it if they're not applying to enough opportunities. When I ask students, well, how come you didn't do an internship? Oh, I applied and I didn't get one. Well, how many did you apply to? 2. They're going to have to apply more than 2 or 3 internships. All right. So I think a healthy number for them just to have in their head is 20 to 25. Do I hope that they have to apply to 20 to 25? No, I hope they get one, after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but just in case they don't, they need to be prepared. They're going to have to put themselves out there. It is a numbers game. So to increase their chances, they've got to put more applications in. If they're applying a lot and not getting interviews, there's something wrong with their resume. So then that means that we need to review their resume, give them some feedback. If they're getting interviews, but they're not getting the offers, and that means that something's wrong with their interviewing skills, right? So then we need to hone those. So it's the job search and internship search strategy, it's the resume, it's the interviewing skills, all of these, and really their life skills. So why this is so important is because the process that students will go through to look for an internship or a research position is the same process that they're going to go through to look for a job. And so we want them to practice these skills now, figure out what works, what needs to be tweaked, where they can improve their approach, because this is the process they're going to replicate. So that's why we don't have an internship placement model. We are teaching students the life skill of career development because we know they're only going to be in that first job after they graduate 1 to 3 years. I mean, 3 is even long, right? People are not in jobs very long, and they're constantly going to have to look for a new opportunity to advance their careers. And so that's why we're really teaching them this life skill, and they can practice with an internship search. So please have them come in and get the assistance that they need.
Thank you. Akeem, I have a question for you. I don't know if this parent or supporter was specifically referring to study abroad, but I'm gonna just ask it as if they were. Are there GPA requirements for programs? And do you know any other requirements students have to complete for a study abroad opportunity?
Yes, there are. Usually the minimum GPA for any program is 2.25. But they go up depending on what program you have. Most semester programs is between 2.5 and 3.0. And then if you want to go to Oxford University, it would be 3.3 to 3.7. So there is much higher threshold to plus for that. As for requirements, it depends on what program you do. Some really have not much. Some you can just apply for winter and summer programs. You can do those even as a freshman or sophomore. There may be some requirements for, let's say, a program that's geology focused in Italy. It's a very popular program, geology field studies, but they do have a few requirements that you need to meet before you can actually participate because it's a more rigorous program. And then I would always check the program brochure to see what the requirements are. If you do Spanish in Spain, you know, they place you in a course. So it's like if you're 100, 200, or 300, 400 level, they do a placement so you can take the classes where you should or want to take them. And that's usually how that works. But you know, GPA 2.25, it's not that high compared to Mason, I think. No judgment here, but it's like, so that's where most of them start.
Thank you. Going along with that, where can students find out their like contact person for travel arrangements for the study abroad program?
So every program has a specific page. So when you look at the program list, every name also lists the country, the name of the program, and also type and then term. I would always go there first, and then there are different tabs listed. It's usually the last one or second to last tab in the menu, and that says contact. Click on that, and then you'll see the contact name. There's an actual person attached to that. But overall, you know, there's only 4 emails that you can remember in case you forget to do that. And it's Go Abroad. If you don't know anything, just write an email to Go Abroad at gnu.edu. It's like our central number. We can help you out there. And the other one is Go Intern and Mason Led, and there's also International Exchange. But really, Go Abroad, just they can point you to the right direction, and they can say, for this program, it's that person, and they write an email, and then you get in contact with them. That might be the fastest.
Thank you. Trying to pull up some more questions while I still have you all. Are there any more questions for our panelists for tonight? What is the recommended GPA to start applying for internships?
For many internships, there is no GPA requirement. And so for some there are. 2.0 would be the low end, 2.5, 3, 3.5 for highly selective internships, but we are seeing more employers kind of pulling away from that. So again, GPA is generally not a holdup for students finding some kind of internship opportunity. And students can begin applying as early as freshman year.
And Dr. Lee, are there any GPA requirements for research or scholarship or anything?
For OSCA's programs, no, there is no minimum GPA requirement. There may be for some other programs, but there's not like a general GPA requirement. We just tell students they need to be in good academic standing.
Okay. And for parents and families and supporters, what does good academic standing mean?
My understanding of good academic standing is that each of the majors have a minimum GPA for you to progress in the major. That's how I think about good academic standing. Someone else might know Mason's actual definition. And so if a student is in trouble in their major, or in trouble like in terms of maybe not being able to come back because their grades are low, then they shouldn't be taking on like a research project. They should be working on that. And so we suggest that once they're at good academic standing, they think about doing a research project. But they don't have to have a B average or B plus average or anything like that.
Thank you for that clarification. I just saw one more question come through the chat. Do students need to know the language of the country for study abroad?
They do not. A lot of times classes are available in English. However, it's always good to know a few phrases just to get around, even if it's just from the airport to where you want to be. And then also, if you go shopping, the further you get away from the business centers or cities, the less likely you will encounter someone who speaks English well or at all. So it's not needed, but it's always advisable to know a little bit just to get.
All right, well, I want to be cautious of the time. We are about 3 minutes away from our end time. So I would like to thank all of our panelists and also the parent and family council members for being here tonight. While this session may be our last session for the semester, the Family Support Series will begin again in September. And as you wait, please be sure to fill out the Spring Family Survey on Mason Family Connection. I believe another newsletter went out. And I would like to say good luck to all of you and your students on finals, graduation, research opportunities, internship journeys, study abroad opportunities, and everything that may come soon within this spring semester. And also just have a great night, everyone. And again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to, again, the panelists and also the Parent Family Council for joining us.